Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House. We have a special video today. We reached 10,000. Thank you, everybody. Woohoo! So this video is going to be showing you the attic, but we have two attics, so we'll show you both of them. And I've got to finish canning.
Well, as you can see, it's quite a dangerous undertaking to get up in here. There's a little hole that goes through a closet. All right, let's have a look around. So this is the attic above the kitchen. Everything is old school up here, except for the top there, where a re-roof job was done. And originally they had cedar shingles up there, which they took off, and they installed oriented strand board in its place. Back here you can see some diagonal lumber. That's probably 1x8s, 1x10s, maybe even 1x12s. But those are the sheathing from the old part of the house. Whereas we would use OSB today, or previously they used plywood. Before that they used real lumber laid on diagonally. But look at this. You can still see the saw marks. And down here, these are the joists for the ceiling. Over here you can see some old knob and tube wiring. I'm pretty sure that that's still energized. Down here on the floor, underneath all that dirt, is the ceiling from the kitchen. That's actually tongue and groove beadboard. There's no plaster there. Right here you can see some modern day wiring. But look at that. The squirrels have been up here chewing on it, and they've taken the outer jacket off. Right down over here in the corner, there's a spot where they opened it up. This was an addition. But when they opened that up to run wires through there, it left a really nice place for squirrels to go through. And they had been going through here until recently. They would go in and they would get into the old part of the house. Now look over here. You see that? That's the sheathing. But when they built the addition, they just kind of haphazardly cut that off and left a big opening there. And squirrels could potentially get in. But over here, they very definitely did get in there. In fact, you can see a squirrel's nest back over there. The only thing that's more frightening than knob and tube wiring is knob and tube that's been hooked into modern wiring. Look at that. See, the squirrels attacked that. They chewed on it. And here again, they chewed on it. These two pieces of modern Romex is what I put in here because the old ones had been chewed so bad that they were an electrical hazard and actually were completely bare, all three terminals. So I replaced those just to alleviate the fire hazard. But look around the attic. Squirrels have done tremendous damage up here. Why are there bricks all over the place? Great question. Right down here were the remains of an old chimney that used to go down into the kitchen and up through the roof. But the only thing left of it now was just a small stub that was about 3 feet high. It didn't go through the roof anymore, and it didn't go down to the kitchen anymore. So I went ahead and broke that up, and it was completely, and I mean completely, filled with squirrel nest. It was so tight. Well, the reason I did that is because over there, that's where the squirrels were coming in. And I had to get back in there in order to put all the screen in there to cover it up. So right now, there's no way the squirrels can come in. The hardware cloth has completely closed it up. And I took additional methods of precaution by putting wood blocking in up there, all the way up, over, down the other side. That just makes it impossible for the squirrels to scoot through. And then over there in the other corner is another place where squirrels were coming in. So I went ahead and closed that up with hardware cloth as well. Ever since then, we haven't had squirrels in the house. So standing back on the outside wall, I'm just panning around a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Typical pitched roof. I'd like to draw your attention to the rafters though. Look at those boards. Those are rough sawn boards. This is an interesting feature here. On the chimney, you can see these two iron straps, and they were bolted down or nailed down to a couple of pieces of lumber. And then those straps were embedded in the chimney, and that helped provide a little extra support so that the chimney had something to kind of sit down on, so to speak. And then those two boards went across the rafters just like that. Here's a better view of the hole where the squirrels were coming in. I mean, they had been chewing on that thing for a long, long time to get a hole that big. That's about the size of a watermelon. Well, here's one last look at the electrical system. What's left of it anyway. All right, time to come out of here. This is not easy. I can just barely fit through this hole, and I'm really not that big. I'm having to stand on a shelf and then kind of pull myself out, get turned around, and try not to fall. All right. Quick pause to put the cover back on. And then down the ladder. I'm just not as sprightly as I used to be. There we go. And this comes out. Oh, the cord for the light. I forgot to pull that down. There we go. And then this has to come out. This is an 8-foot ladder. A 6-footer is too short to get up there. We're saving the best attic for last, and that requires a trip upstairs in the main part of the house, the historic part of the house. Welcome to the White Room. The room completely devoid of any natural woodwork. All right. The final frontier. This is the one you guys have been waiting a long time for. We've seen it a couple of times, but you haven't. So this is your opportunity. And I want to thank you again for getting us past 10,000. And here is the reward. All right, you guys. Let me get a good handle on this camera, and then we'll go walk around. So this is the main attic over the historic part of the house. And look at that. There's a window. All of the joists and rafters are pretty much the same as what we saw on the other side, just rough cut lumber. Although I believe these are really 2-inch by 4-inch 2x4s. Here again we have knob and tube wiring. Same as on the other side. But the wiring over here on this side looks like it's in pretty good shape. I don't see any chew-up marks. You can see a little bit of daylight there, and that's a place where I thought squirrels might be coming in. So I put a lot of squirrel repellent down there, and they don't like it. But I can't see any evidence that they've been coming through there, so I think we'll be okay. This right here is one of the historic chimneys. It just barely nicks the roof. Most of it's on the outside of the house. And over here again you can see the diagonal cladding on the outside of the house, the sheathing. But over here, there's a whole lot more structural integrity. Things that are keeping the roof in shape. Here we're looking at a couple of gables. There's one there, and there's one there. That's the valley of the roof right there, and you can see some historic metal flashing. It's probably been up there since day one, or almost. But it was covered up with OSB, oriented strand board. You see the slats that go across there. Oh, well, originally back in the day, they used to use cedar shingles, and they would just nail them right onto those slats, and it would form a watertight surface, and the water would just run off, and you could actually see the shingles from underneath. All that debris right there, those are cedar shingles that they broke and just dropped down into the attic. Never cleaned it out. Look at the size of that beam right there. I came over to investigate this window. Unfortunately, it's not wood. It's actually vinyl. It's a modern vinyl replacement that the previous owner must have put in recently. And here's a view out into the yard. Here it is looking back from the window, looking out across the attic. You can see it goes way down over there and then turns the corner to the right. There's a lot more over there that we'll check out in just a minute. But what's this? It looks like it says Arms, Union Metallic. It's kind of obscured by time. But here's the interesting thing. Look at that. It looks like a squirrel has been gnawing on this thing for a long time. Yes, there were squirrels up in here, but we got them out. Apparently, we found ourselves an antique ammunition box. That thing might have been worth something, but the squirrels pretty much did a number on it. Well, what's hiding down there in the darkness? Let's make our way over here carefully and see what's over here. Oh yeah, there's plenty more to explore over on that side, so we'll get to that in just a minute. Here's a good old attic light that every attic should have, but it doesn't work, and it's not because of a burned out light bulb either. I tried changing it and it didn't make a bit of difference. I haven't had time to troubleshoot it, so it stays the way it is. Let's walk over here. I'm not sure what kind of insulation we have here. It's very thin and doesn't look like anything I've seen before. Okay, now here's something I'd like to show you. That's an electrical junction box. Notice it has a cover on it? That's the way it's supposed to be. It's always bad to have an electrical junction box with the cover exposed. It also looks like all the cabling going out of there is Romex or something like it. It looks like it's fairly modern. This is one of the front gables on the house. Since this house is a twin-gabled house, this would be the east gable. There's part of the roof. Now you see where the roof and the joists, so the ceiling joist, come together. That area right there for about 18 inches actually is an overhang on the outside. So the wall below us is actually probably about 18 to 20 inches back from that current corner. Who doesn't love an attic with a big wide open space? But here you can see a lot of bracing going on. And that gives the attic strength. It can handle snow and it can handle wind. It doesn't move about as much and it makes for a much stronger attic. The only downside is you can't do anything with it because you've got all these braces in the way. Take a closer look there. Not only do we have the diagonals going up, but there's also a board which is pushing against that entire roof slope there. So that's a good sturdy roof. And look how chunky that 2x4 is. That thing there is really legitimately 2 inches by 4 inches. And it's rough sawn too. And full of splinters, so I'm taking my hand off. In the area between the two front gables, there's some kind of interesting box framing going on there, and I'm not sure what they're doing, why they did it. Here are the ceiling joists. They come back this way. And all of a sudden, there's a splice. Look at that. So instead of using one long continuous board, they took two boards and spliced them together. And that's okay because right underneath there is a load-bearing wall. You've heard about the term load-bearing wall? There is definitely a load-bearing wall underneath there. Definitely something you don't want to take out. Here's the view out the front window. And no attic would be complete without some of these. Let's make our way back over to this corner. I'm looking at the electrical as I go here, and it really looks good. I don't see any kind of damage. Now here's the thing about knob and tube. It gets a bad rap, but really, it works good. The only problem is you don't have a grounded electrical system, and in modern construction, that, of course, would never fly. And one could argue that, yeah, you should probably take it out and put a grounded electrical circuit in. And that's why we went to all the trouble to put the new panel outside so that that can be done. If not now, then in the future. But knob and tube is not by itself inherently dangerous because the two leads are separated often by several inches. And so there's no way that they can short out and cause a fire. Where the problem comes in is when people start hacking away at it and adding stuff to it that they shouldn't be. Back here is another spot where we had trouble. Squirrels were coming in at that corner right there. They would go up on the roof and then they'd get on the gutter and they'd go around the corner, and right there was a big hole and they would just come right in. And they were causing all kinds of trouble. And I tried a couple of different things to keep them out and it wasn't working very well. So finally what I ended up doing was taking a bunch of hardware cloth and making it into a cone shape, and then I shoved it in there really hard and kind of tacked it down so that it can't move. Well, the squirrels, they just can't get through that. They just can't do it. They would actually have to gnaw away at the wood, and it would take them a long time, and I don't know, maybe they just give up. I'm not sure. But we haven't had any trouble with squirrels getting into this section since I did that. That powdery stuff you see there is squirrel repellent. And I put down a good amount of it. So between the squirrel repellent and the hardware cloth, I think we're good to go. This is the knob, part of the famous ceramic knob and tube. On the back side there you can see where it has a kind of a bulged out shape, and on the back it's straight. But they would drill a hole through a board and stick it in there, and then they'd run the wire through it. That's kind of innovative. They went through at a 45-degree angle. Here we have more splices, but you can see that's a really long run going over there, and I don't think they made boards quite that long, and if they did, they were probably expensive and very hard to transport. So here we are at what would have been the rear gable back in the day, but at some point they added on the kitchen. So right there behind that wall is the kitchen attic. That's where we just were a few minutes ago. Here's another rafter valley. You can see the details of how the boards come and overlap each other, as well as some vintage tin. Now, that may have to be some of the craziest framing work I've ever seen. I have no idea what they were doing or why they did it that way, but it's interesting. And there's the view outside the window. I wanted to get a close-up of this insulation. I'm really not sure what that is. It looks like, I could almost say that that might be shredded up newspaper. Over there in the gloom is one of the other historic fireplaces. Now this one actually goes through the attic. You can see how it stepped up there and then goes up right up through the roof. Now this chimney, to me, it looks like it's in fantastic condition. The mortar is great. I don't see any deterioration whatsoever. Now chances are this chimney could still be used with a good cleaning. I know that some of the brickwork up top has suffered ravages of weather and probably needs to be redone up there, but I think the rest of it is fine. This one chimney here serves not one, not two, but 4 fireplaces. Here's the part that will blow your mind. There's the chimney, but look over there in the darkness. What in the world is that? That is a big open space that goes down to the floor below. And that right there that you're seeing at the bottom, that's the ceiling of one of the closets on the 2nd floor. But it gets even crazier because if you look down here, you can see that the wall cavity is open and there's electrical wiring running through there, which is fine. Here's the problem. When the squirrels got into the attic, they would get down in there, they would climb down into the space, and they could have basically free run of the entire house. They could get into floors, walls, and ceilings. Ever since we closed up all those holes, there haven't been any. But this is how they were getting around, and that's why the house sounded like it was haunted. Well, what about the other side of the chimney? So far, so good, right? But wait. What the heck is that? Another one. Just like the other one. It goes down. There's a closet ceiling. There are wires going through it. And the walls, you can see the beautiful lath and plaster keys. The walls were wide open. Not completely wide open, but semi-wide open. I mean, that part is closed. But right there, yeah, that's a great place for squirrels to go. Here's another view from the other end of it, looking down. And that's a great place to bring wires up. So if we needed to wire anything up on the 2nd floor, like, say, lights or outlets, we can bring those up from the crawl space all the way up through that chase to the attic and then over and down to wherever it needs to go. The last thing I'd like to show you is all the way up, way up there, the top of the roof. And there, way down below, is my sweet wife in the bedroom down below us. So that concludes the attic tour. I'm going to see if I can get myself out of here now. Oh, yeah. The best part about going up to the attic is coming back out. When we started this channel a year ago, we never expected to have 2 historic houses across 2 different states and end up with 10,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel. We never saw that coming, but we want to thank you guys for following along on this incredible journey. We've had ups and downs and challenges and surprises, and it's been fun, and you guys have been with us the whole way, so we really appreciate that. Thanks for stopping by. We really do appreciate you guys being part of this.
Yes, thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.